Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
Hey, my team and I are offering a 3-day intensive retreat in San Diego, California. This retreat is going to be so powerful and transformative. My team and I will show you how to discover yourself, your true potential, and help you find your path and purpose in life and uncover the warrior's courage that is within you. I literally put my heart and soul into this program, and the reason why you want this is because I will save you time and money from having to figure out all of this on your own. There are only 10 spots available for the retreat, so go to kfmretreat.com to learn more and apply for the program. Again, that's kfmretreat.com. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Gary Vaynerchuck, the founder of WineLibrary.com, VaynerMedia, and an investment fund in consumer technology startups, Vayner RSE. He's also the author of multiple best-selling books on entrepreneurship and marketing. Gary, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me, man. Looking forward to it.
All right. And Gary, so we start off every show with a favorite success quote of the guest or some sort of saying that the guests have lived by that's helped them on their journey. So what do you got for us? And then share with us what that means to you.
I guess the one that probably over-indexes for me is legacy is greater than currency. It's something that kind of slipped out in a Q&A somewhere early on during this journey where I started having a little bit more attention. I just make every decision predicated on extreme long term, like great-great-great-grandchildren trying to figure out who was I, chatter at my funeral. Like, these are the things that run through my mind when I'm making kind of mundane, basic business decisions. And they've served me so well because I think people grossly underestimate the long-term leverage you have in a relationship, in a business relationship, where you're over-delivering on value early and often. And then I've also been blessed, and this may not work for some of the people that are listening, with a stunning lack of expectation of others. Don't expect anything in return for me over-delivering up front or paying forward. You know, I'm really just focused on my legacy.
Yeah. It sounds like you're really focused on the long game versus this short-term gratification of getting those instant results.
I'm a much happier Jets fan than I am a Yankees fan. and that should probably be the most extreme insight, right? Which is, I'm going to go even more extreme than that, my man. I'm weirdly not happy with short-term successes. I'm weirdly not happy that people now know who I am. I loved building VaynerMedia over the last couple of years because the advertising industry underestimated me. And I have a feeling that I have 3 to 4 more chapters in different sectors because I need to get the high of being underestimated. And when I'm winning in a certain sector, like the wine business, I have to kind of move on.
This is good. It's really giving us some insight into who you are and kind of that hustle that you have and what you've done with the businesses that you've built and the books that you've written. Share with us briefly a little bit about how you got started with what you do. I know you're big, you've got a huge brand, you've got great books and great content, but some of my listeners might not know and they need to know. So go ahead and share with us how you got started with what you do.
Well, I appreciate that setup, and I want to tell you another thing. The other thing that I love is that I'm very self-aware of. My intuition is that maybe even more than half of your audience doesn't know. I think that's the thing that people don't understand. The world is so fragmented now. You go ask a 15-year-old, the most famous people, 11 of them are people you never heard of because they're all on YouTube and Vine and Snapchat, right? So we're living through really interesting times. So I appreciate that. So I'll go quickly, recognizing maybe 20 or 30% do know who I am. I'm super classic kind of American dream story, entrepreneur through and through, terrible student, cliche hustler that way, was born in Belarus in the former Soviet Union, came to the United States when I was 3, family, like my parents are my heroes, grinded, stock boy in a liquor store my dad was, eventually owned a small store, and really just grinded, just was very much a baseball card kid, but, lemonade stands, and got involved in my dad's liquor store, right time, right place, have one real knack of understanding what everybody on this call / listening to this podcast are going to do over the next 3 to 4 years before they do, and have made a lot of, successful business decisions predicated on that. And the first one ever was to launch an e-commerce site in 1996, which is now 20 years ago, when nobody really thought that was going to work. A lot of youngsters or mid-30s people on this call that are going to recognize when I say this that they may not believe how many people underestimated the internet as a fad. And so whether it was e-commerce or email marketing, Google advertising, I was marketing properly and grew the family business from a $3 to a $60 million business, and that kind of changed the course of my career. Then I started a show on YouTube called Wine Library TV that really blew me up in the Web 2.0 world. I started on YouTube, less than a year after YouTube came out. So I was a fast mover. I was an early fast mover on Twitter, top 25 followed person before Ashton came. Amassed 1.1 million followers on Twitter, was an early investor in Twitter and Tumblr, made some really smart decisions there. Started Vayner Media, an agency to get brands into social in 2009 with my brother. Went on to invest in things like Birchbox and Uber and Venmo and really crushed that world, and started a fund called Vayner RSC. Wrote 3 New York Times bestselling books along the way, starting in 2009 with Crush It, Thank You Economy, and now Jab, 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 Right Hook. And then kind of dusted off my camera and started a video blog podcast called Ask Gary V, which I started a couple of months ago that I'm really enjoying. And, just trying to buy the New York Jets. That's the business. That's the business goal.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, you mentioned that in Crush It. I remember reading that when I was in college some time ago, and you're still going after the Jets. I love it. You got that tenacity still going for you.
I mean, that's been like 4th grade, right? You read Crush It, I was 32-year-old, 34-year-old man, right? That's been there since 10, 11. I think that was around the age I realized I'd be more likely to buy them than play for them.
Yeah, I like that. Now, you just mentioned some major companies that you've invested in: Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Uber. Yep. There's so much money available out there. You're in kind of the New York area, and how did you get into a position to be able to invest in those companies when there's so much money available? How did you put yourself in that position?
Well, it's interesting. A couple things. You're talking about how much money and how competitive it is now. It was a little less competitive in 2007 and 8 and 9 when I made these investments. What happened was I really blew up because of YouTube, and really started feeling a different thing than just being a successful entrepreneur. This personal brand thing, this notoriety thing, the leverage of that became a real thing to my life. And then I read that YouTube sold to Google for $2 billion. And in the article, it said, angel investor Ron Conway is set to make X. And I said, that's interesting. What the hell is an angel investor? I Googled, and I was like, wait a minute. I'm always right about the future. Yeah, I can make a little bit more money selling wine, but this guy put in, $100K and made 30, 40, 50, 100 million, real numbers. And so I said, the next time I see something that I think is going to be huge, I'm going to invest in it. And that was Twitter 6 months later.
Wow.
I saw Twitter. Everybody in the Web 2.0 TechCrunch blog world started writing about it. Most people thought it was stupid. I was a businessman, unlike a lot of the people that were really techie back then in technology. And so I saw the power of it being an email marketing competitor. And to me, I was like, wait a minute, 10,000 people can follow me and I can text something and they could see it. I'm in. And so that's what happened. And then I saw Tumblr very quickly after that. I had friends that had junior high kids. They were all about it long before people realized it. And that basically became kind of the starting point.
So you built a brand for yourself through YouTube, your books, and then I guess even the timing allowed for some of this to happen for yourself.
100%. It was timing. It was also the tenacity of it, right? And I've made some mistakes, man. I could have easily been in Pinterest a billion years ago, and I was lazy and just didn't fly out there and really seal the deal. I was way early Snapchat advocate. I should have been in earlier. So even though I learned those lessons back in 08, 09, go and get it, fly out to San Francisco, meet, Jack and Ev, spoke at Facebook to their company. That gave me the leverage to invest with Mark's parents. even though I learned those things along the way, I'm still making some of those mistakes. But it's interesting, recently, I was like, just no more room for those kind of mistakes. If I think something's going to be big, if I got to go live for 2 weeks, even with a family in a hotel room and just stalk the kids that are in it to like build a relationship, I'm going there. And so my skill is intuition and understanding consumers. And this is a very lucrative way to use that skill, and I need to attack it. So knowing the show, right? Knowing what you're doing here, I would tell everybody I suck at a lot of stuff, guys, but I have enough self-awareness to know what I'm good at, and I have zero tolerance and no worries whatsoever of what everybody else thinks to go all in on those strengths, and that's where most of my magic has happened. And all my average stuff and my below average stuff has happened when I've hedged or wavered or moments of lapsed judgment of like trying to round out myself or learn other things. Going all in on strengths has been the absolute differentiator.
The one thing I've just noticed from reading your books and just looking at what you've done and built is like the one word that comes to mind when I think of Gary Vaynerchuck is hustle. It's like you're just a hustler. Like you work so hard and you've built so much. And I think that's something that's lacking with a lot of entrepreneurs or people who want to start a business is they first think, hey, I want to build a business. And then, the reason why I want to build a business is so one day I don't have to work. I don't have to hustle so that I could sit on a beach and golf and fun things. It's kind of like starting backwards. It's like, hey, you gotta hustle.
I'm going to go really deep on you because I'm being out there so much, I'm taking more responsibility to try to bring something new. Having empathy for the 25% of the people who are listening that do know me, I'm like, what can I say that is something I've just been holding in to make it more interesting, to make it worthwhile for people to listen? So I'm going to say something now that I've never said out loud, ever. I weirdly think I'm suppressing my upside. So I would even argue that I'm sabotaging myself from financial upside at times because I don't want it to happen right away so much because I love the process so much. I'm proud that it's 5:13 p.m. on a Sunday right now and we're doing this interview and I'm on the way to the airport to take a 6-hour flight to the West Coast, right? Like, I like that. Like, that is a differentiator. I don't have as much talent as other people, and I do think outworking people is an absolute variable. And I also think subconsciously I love it so much that I'm trying not to hit the billion as quickly as I maybe could because I love it so much. And I'm scared that what happened to me with the New York Rangers and the New York Yankees and in my younger years, if I could get a girl to like me or hook up, once it was all about the hunt. It was all about the climb. It's all about the journey. The reason I'm just externally happy and like to have that positive vibe is I'm just love what I do. I'm just all in. I just love it.
Yeah. Talk to us about kind of like what your daily routine looks like. Like you're right now, you've squeezed in this interview. You're in the car to go to the airport to go probably do more deals here on the West Coast. Like what's a typical day look like for you waking up? What's that grind look like?
So half the year I'm in New York, half the year I'm on the road. So it's a ton of fucking travel. A lot of FFLA where I have intermediate offices. I speak 50 to 75 times a year, so it could be anywhere. I mean, like last Wednesday, I went to Madrid for 6 hours. Literally took a 6 p.m. flight from New York, flew there. By the time I landed, it was the next day. I slept for 3 hours in a hotel room, showered, spoke, and flew back. But the typical day is wake up at 6, work out for an hour, then see the kids for 15 minutes weekdays. It's more weekends and holidays where I get to jam with them. Walk out the door, go to a meeting, internal and external meetings around the fund, around VaynerMedia, predominantly. A couple phone calls to check in on Wine Library. We've got a couple incubated businesses inside of the fund that we own more of and I'm more attuned to. Brave, a TV consulting thing, Resi, a restaurant app thing, Faith Box, a Faith Box of the Month business. So there's that time that eats up. There's interviews. If I'm doing stuff for New York Times or Forbes or Wall Street Journal asking for quotes, that takes up time. I'm a hardcore HR-driven entrepreneur and CEO, so I'm spending 3 hours a day, sometimes 5, 10, 15, 30-minute meetings with people's fears and wants and needs. That goes all the way through to about 7, and then 7 to 11 p.m. I'll have anywhere between 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 meetings, drinks, dinner meetings, and I get home at 11:30, high-five my wife for 20, 30 minutes while I check up on email, like just chat a little bit about the day, and then go to sleep 12 or 1 and rinse and repeat.
For some people, that just might be like, wow.
By the way, if you're curious by this, there's a tweet that somebody put out, or I might put it out in next week just for the people that are like, everything I just said, there's literally, you know who might be more interesting to interview? My assistant. Because literally, every minute is allocated. There's not a single minute allocated to anything other than action.
Wow. What drives you to do this? I mean, you just gave us a day that looks like very few people could just do that for a week. And yet you've been doing this for years, decades. It's actually probably just since you started selling baseball cards and selling flowers. I've seen some videos. You've been hustling flowers. Yeah, you've been selling people flowers.
Look, I think starting from a very low place helps. Being an immigrant helps. Recognizing how lucky we are to be in America. I think, DNA, watching my parents' work ethic. My mom raised 3 kids, no help, no vacations. I mean, I took 2 vacations in my entire childhood. One from when me and my mom, my dad didn't even go. Me and my mom and sister went to Disney World, and later 13, when I took 3 from first grade to 12th grade. I took 3 family vacations. Only 2 with my dad, all to Disney. Saw nothing. It was always work. When I was 13, I started working every weekend, every, summer day vacation. I was programmed, right? And then I'm just massively competitive. So that helps. I love it. It just, I don't even know any different. But I will say this. In the last 9 months, I've started incorporating exercise and eating right. And it's only 9 months in. But I did it by hiring a full-time person, and I can promise you, I'm very confident saying this to the audience, I'll never go back. I have figured out my hack to healthy living, which was I became financially stable enough to hire a full-time person to help me focus on it, travel with me. Right now, in the air is my full-time health person flying to LA because we're working out tomorrow morning, right? So real financial commitment. And I get that that's not for everybody, but I will say this. There's a lot of people who are listening right now and saying, well, I'm not wired that way.
Right.
For all of the way that I'm wired, and for all the fact that I've been yelling this whole time that you need to bet on your strengths, if you're listening to this and you want it, but you like playing video games, you like being part of the softball team, you like vacations, you like sitting in a room for 2 hours and listening to music, you're just not as hungry, or you don't like to hustle as much. There's really a couple different things you can do, but the truth is you can do something. It just takes something drastic. To me, something drastic was I'm treating myself like I'm Beyonce getting ready for a film. I have like a full person trying to change my life health-wise, and that's extreme. It took me a year to do it because I'm literally say it out loud here, and the only reason I'm saying it is it's not always financial. The thing that people need to do on this call to get into action is to act fundamentally different, to do something crazy different. You're not going to break your patterns by getting motivated for 30 minutes listening to me. You're going to do it by saying, okay, if I really love this, I'm going to have to eat humble pie. I may have to move back in with my parents at 32 years old because it's the only way I'll financially be able to do it. I need to find 2-3 people on Twitter or Craigslist to be my roommates. We're going to live in a 2-bedroom, and I'm 31 years old, but I'm going to do that because I need people that are doing it too around me, and all 4 of us are going to go for our dreams. You need to do something crazy. You need to move. You need to break up with your boyfriend because you're into loyal, not in love. You need to do something immensely different to be able to do something different. That's just, it's a very funny statement, but if you want to act like an anomaly, you've got to act like one, right? And so I act like one. When all my friends were going to the Jersey Shore and banging chicks, I was working. And that's why I was able to build those hours and that lingo. And I'm 39 and I'm a 78-year-old businessman because I've just been doing it from the get. And so that's just the way it is.
Yeah. So you just mentioned something like, hey, grab some friends, get on Craigslist, get a room, get a place of just entrepreneurs to really surround yourself with the right people. At your level, at a higher level, are you still applying this idea of you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with? Are you involved in mastermind groups?
Such a great question. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I worry about myself back to sabotaging is I do so much more mentoring and going down than I have no mentors or going up.
Okay.
I'm too competitive to give anybody that edge, and it is an absolute weakness. On the flip side, there is one smart thing I do. At places like South by Southwest, Les Web in Paris, these big events where I speak and other, people that have accomplished the kind of things that I've accomplished or aspire to, we get together and do jam sessions. We go into a hotel room, 4 or 5 hours. We just jam. We talk. We say, is Snapchat worth 16 billion? What do you think about this? What's the next big thing? What about augmented reality? And those jam sessions 2-3 times a year are absolute brain food for me. And I would say that it is an absolute flaw of mine to not consistently hang with ballers, winners. I've done a lot more in the last 2 years, and I am feeling the effects. And so I'm growing in that area.
Got it. And while we're on this idea of like kind of helping out someone who's starting out, like what advice do you have for someone who wants to start their business, who wants to get that level of financial freedom, who wants to quit their job? What kind of advice do you have for a guy like this?
For them to be self-aware, for them to be equally as proud of what they suck at as what they're good at. I am. I'm proud that I suck at a lot of things. I'm proud that I procrastinate. I'm proud that I don't follow up. I'm proud that until very recently, like I would say things and then forget and not follow up. Now I do everything on the spot. I'm proud because it helps me be self-aware. All those things I just mentioned, I try to do as little as possible, right? And so I think it's getting to that truth place, right? It's understanding what you're good at. It's understanding what you're bad at. And then once you can be that, because the truth is 99% of people listening to this right now are lying to themselves.
Yeah.
They just are.
Yeah.
They think their idea's that badass. They think that they work hard. They think I might not even be telling the truth about my day. Like how intense it is. That day I just told you is every day. Always. And so whether they believe it or not, what they're doing two things in their mind. No, he's not doing that. Or, damn, holy shit, I don't work that hard. Right? So I would say getting to that truth point, the second you're willing to go naked with yourself, you win. Right? And so that's what I do. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm bad at. And I try to subtly fix some of the things I'm bad at, but it's 95% energy on tripling down what I'm great at. And that keeps me away from things. People always ask me, Gary, you hang out with all these guys are your homies. Why don't you build a product like Uber or Facebook and Twitter? And that's how you'll buy the jets. And the answer is because I can't. I don't see myself as a product CEO, it's just not what I'm going to do. On the flip side, I am going to buy an old brand and turn it around and make $1 billion. I am going to buy British Knights or Animal Crackers or, Zima and flip and rebrand it in a 2020 way and flip it, buy for 200 and sell it for $1 billion, right? So I know how I'm going to do it. I already know. And I think a lot of people on this call know how they can win. It's just not as attractive as the way they want to win.
Big point there. And then what are some common mistakes that you see entry-level entrepreneurs make when they're first entering the game?
Lack of understanding what it really takes, right? Like not being mentally prepared to take that punch in the face. Everything is creating narratives in their mind, how every single little thing is going to work out in a perfect storm for success, instead of assuming nothing's going to work out and figuring out what they're going to do when that happens. That's all I do. Everything that runs through my mind is, this isn't going to work, and so this is what I'm going to do. And if that doesn't work, then this is what I'm going to do. It's a defensive offense, right? It's recognizing that in entrepreneurship and free market enterprise, that the game doesn't care about you. It's just going to do what it's going to do, and I have to adjust to that.
Yeah, and something that I've looked at is when you find your thing, you find your purpose, you can fully commit and go all in. And so for guys who haven't found their thing yet, and they have so much potential, but they haven't found their thing, what advice do you have for someone who's kind of feeling lost or unsure of their purpose or what they should be doing?
This question I don't like, even though all the questions are subjective, and I'll tell you why. It comes down to the individuals, right? There's so many things here. Some people's parents didn't instill self-esteem into them, so they'll just never think they're right? That's a tough one. They found their purpose, they just don't realize it because they've been trained and taught to never think they could do it. That's scary.
Yeah, that's very scary.
Then there's people that, God, there's so many things running through my mind right now because
Just say it. Say it all. Get it out.
You're self-aware, right? Which is a funny question because self-awareness breeds self-awareness. But here's what I would say. I've got a really good call to action that will really make this interview super productive. Take the 3 people that you trust the most that are closest to you, and the ones that are most positive. Maybe your mom's a positive character. 3 people that are negative. Maybe your dad's negative, or your aunt, or your brother. Get a mix of 4, 5, 6 people that have been pro-you and anti-you. And when I say anti-you, they might not be mean to you. They're just not optimists. They don't get it, whatever it is. And go have the signature talk with them in your life. Literally hey, what do you think I'm good at and what do you think I'm bad at? And literally write left column, right column, and then look at it, and then just literally throw away the left column of what you're bad at, and see where you've got things that said you're good at the most. Like 4 people said you're funny or you care, and start trying to use that as the kernel to your destiny. I'm telling you guys, it's all about positivity, mindset, and skill. You might be, it's great that you're positive, but I'm not the fucking secret. You've got to be good, right? I can't will my brain into being an NBA point guard, and I really want to be an NBA point guard. Right? Here's a good one. I'm motivational as fuck, right? People are listening right now, they're pumped. I, for the last 4 or 5 years, have actually pushed against my motivation a little bit. I'm only now getting back into, pushing it a little more because I didn't want people to think I was just a talking head and full of shit. So I rebuilt VaynerMedia, which has now gone from 0 to a $90 million company in 5 years, right? Just to remind everybody, fuck you, I'm not a fucking guru, I'm an executor. But the truth is, that's me pushing against my raw talent. I do motivate people. There will be somebody from this call that's going to go out and change their lives, and they're going to tell me and you that it was this interview. And that's fucking special.
Very special. Yeah, absolutely. Very special. And this
and so
is. Go ahead.
I just think it's empathy, self-awareness, the truth. It's all those things. But you know what? It's really easy to say and super hard to do. I just think you have to get to that naked place.
Yeah. And staying on this topic, here's a scenario. Imagine you had 60 seconds with your 20-year-old self. What would you tell him to do, and what would you tell him not to do? 60 seconds with your 20-year-old self.
I would tell him to go bang more chicks because he's got time to build a business. So,
the honest advice.
I don't want to be crude, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but at 20, I literally couldn't even think about girls. All I wanted to do was build businesses and achieve my business destiny. And the truth is, I would have told that dude, you got plenty of time. Go have a little fun. And the thing that I would have told him to do was, look, man, even though you may not bang as many chicks or have as much fun as your friends, you're going to be really happy at 39. So actually, net, don't do anything different.
The truth comes out here. Now, kind of changing up the pace a bit here. Do you think that we're in a current tech bubble here? What we experienced in 2001 in that area? If we look at these companies being sold for billions of dollars, they don't have a plan of monetization yet. They're being valued at millions and billions of dollars. When we look at these companies, what are your thoughts on that?
Not the unicorns. I think Pinterest and Snapchat at 16 and 11 billion are both underpriced.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
I think the unicorns, Uber, Airbnb, Snapchat, Pinterest, I think Ship is an emerging unicorn. I think the unicorns are 100,000% underpriced. I do think that there's a lot of wannabe unicorns, companies that are tricking people, but I would say the top 5% of the companies that come from this era will be grossly underpriced. And so that's how I say it.
Got it. All right. Well, we're going to wind down here. And just to conclude this valuable interview, it's been just so impactful for myself, and I know my listeners. Even if you summarize some of your main points, what would you say is your philosophy on life and success?
I'm going to leave with this, and it's going to really help. It's a 51-49 game in life. And I think if you give the other entity 51, you win. I believe in that so much. And so I think there's a lot of selfish fuckers listening to this. And one of the biggest reasons they're not winning is because they're not giving. And giving is listening to your buddy instead of always talking about your problems. Giving is calling your mom every day now instead of once every 3 weeks because you know she loves it. Giving is seeing somebody randomly struggling, like flat tire, tripped and fell, has 3 screaming kids and needs to put their suitcase up in the airplane, and doing that. I would say that is the secret sauce. And for a lot of people listening right now, it's really hard to give because they don't feel like they're fully fulfilled yet. And I have empathy and recognize some may say, well, easy for you to do. But the truth is, the reason I got here is because I did that from the get. And I would highly recommend that.
God, really good, really good. And what's exciting you today now, Gary? What's getting you out of bed in the morning? What's really lighting a fire in your stomach right now?
For me, it's the fact that I'm like in this leadership position in this tech entrepreneur world that I'm completely convinced, and it's just very obvious, is just starting still, right? Like, the internet is 20 years old.
Yeah, it's incredible.
You know, I know it was invented longer than that, but I'm talking Windows 95. We're just getting going. And so, you know, I'm excited that my timing puts me in this really strong power position for the next 20 years in a game that's going to only exponentially get bigger, which is why I think those unicorns are underpriced. Like, internet behavior and being in your eyes in your phone and smart technology, this stuff is just starting. I don't know what do you think is going to happen? Like, what do you think, we're going to go backwards? Do you know all these businesses that are dead? You know, all of them that aren't digitally switched over yet. I mean, you know how much money that is? I mean, self-driving cars. You know, people are like, oh, self-driving cars. That's not going to just put Toyota out of business. Do you know that most fast food restaurants, that if they're not doing drive-through business, they're dead? Well, think about that. Think about the innovation there. What if you're the fast food company of the self-driving car? Like, it's just starting, man. It's just starting. So what excites me is I wasn't an athlete. My career didn't end at 35. I'm a businessman. My career starts at 35.
I love this. And do you have a target date for owning the Jets? Do you want to make that announcement here on the podcast?
As long as I do it before I die, I'm good.
All right, Gary, it's been such a pleasure having you be on the show. Guys listening, GaryVaynerchuck.com. That is his website. His books are there, his investments. If you want to hire him to speak, you can just Google his name and you're going to see a ton of great content that he's put out, along with his YouTube show, Gary Vaynerchuck on YouTube. Incredible content to keep the conversation going. Gary, thank you so much for being a part of this community and inspiring the listeners of my show.
No worries, brother. Take care of yourself.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and 1 million downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we've just started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a review in iTunes. It really helps to grow the podcast. Guys, 2015 is the official year of living with purpose, where every day you do only the things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. Check out kfmfree.com to get free tools I've created to help you crush life. Again, that's kfmfree.com. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, and I'll see you in the next episode.